I mean, I listed one recently. A competing listing was $850. They had a lot of offers on it and went up. And I said, okay, I feel safe. Ours isn't as nice, but the location is better. So this is how we look at pricing. Our location's better. So I said, I'm comfortable at $899. We had, I think, 4 offers on that property. So it went from $899. We were able to get them $1,051,000.
In the July Market Report episode of the Slow County Real Estate Podcast with Hal Sweasey, we find it is still a seller's market despite a historically high mortgage rate increase. June sales numbers confirm it, and the team gives some advice to both sellers and buyers on how to best prepare themselves for what may be on the horizon. We are in a golden state of mind when it comes to real estate. Here's your host, James Bueno.
Hello, everybody. It's July, the beginning of July, and it's time for another market update with the Slow County Real Estate with Hal Sweasey. And as always, and I say this all the time, Hal Sweasey, you're with us. How are you, sir?
I'm great, James, but you don't seem as excited as normal to have me talk about the market statistics
you know,
in San Luis Obispo County. This is disappointing right now.
Well,
I'm kind of...
Am I a little out of it right now?
I'm not very sensitive, but that one cut pretty deep. I don't know.
You know what? I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. You were in a pretty picture.
I need some shirt.
Yeah, right. I know. I was beautiful the last time we had one of these.
It was. So then you heard his voice, Mr. Pete. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing great. A little dismayed. Mr. Turner isn't here. We're missing. We're down one today. So
maybe that's what it is. Maybe
we're a man down.
We're man down. Man down.
Yeah.
And then Mr. Kingman is here. How are you, sir?
I'll try to fill in the best I can for John.
The wise words of JT.
Right. Yeah.
I'll just say what I think he would say in that instance.
Ooh, there we go. That's tough.
Those are big shoes.
You know, I went to a Giants game, and I watched actually 2 back-to-back games, and they lost them both. And JT said, don't come back without a win, so maybe he left. You know.
John is phenomenal on this podcast. He's the oldest guy in the room, and we have a wide variety of ranges. But I got to tell you, for someone who helps me with my business and helps create the culture and help bring the best out of people, I mean, Jay, you're really good at that. John is just such an asset to our team. So in his absence, I want to just acknowledge that. I know we're going to poke fun at John, but the guy is really solid in helping to create a better environment. I've learned a lot from him.
We do. We love John. And you know what, Hal, since you're bringing this up, I told you about the story. I think I sent all of you either a text message or an email. I spoke to a gentleman. I was looking at a rental in Shell Beach, and it's a fellow real estate agent.
Yep.
He said, hey, I just want to let you know I listen to your podcast. And one of the podcasts that Hal was talking about being a struggling agent at the beginning really helped him through, and you know who it is now.
Yes,
about.
Yeah, and great young man, and
he's like, I just want to let you know Hal really helped me through, making it through a tough time, and he's still continuing, and he's excited for some success. So we helped him out.
Yeah, it's a tough go, especially in the beginning. Yeah, we had somebody call in the other day, wanted help because they didn't realize they can sell their house and transfer their tax base, and it had a pretty serious life change, and so it's good to hear that it's getting out and people are learning from it, and that's our goal. So
absolutely.
Thanks you guys for putting it on.
Well, great info. So let's give out some more info.
Okay, July 2023, right? For anybody that follows us, there's been a trend. So our inventory is down a little bit from last year. Okay, and that again was pretty record low. We had at the end of the month, just a few days ago, 260 active listings. That's not very much at all for a county of 250,000 people. Pending and closed, both down about 20%. So that was a pretty rabid year. So that's to be expected. There's no way we could keep up with that pace. That was a record year. Our new listings were down, new homes coming on the market, about 30% from a year ago. So we only had 110 new homes come on the market while we had 179 close. So that's not quite, one half. It's a little more than half. So what I'm saying is 179 sold off the market, only 110 came back. That means next month we're going to be even lower. So the other thing that we've noticed, which is a change from last year, is our days on the market. And when I sit down with a homeowner these days, or we're talking to a buyer, either one, we find houses that are fairly priced are selling quickly. So all the sales in July in Arroyo Grande, average days, let me make sure I wrote it down correctly. Yeah, average days for the 20 sales in the city of Arroyo Grande on the market for those who sold 6. 6 days, okay? If I look at Morrowood Bay, for all the sales we had there in July, 14 days. In Los Osos, 10 days. Atascadero, 10 days. That's the average time on the market. It takes 4 or 5 days just to negotiate, only if you have one offer. So, I mean, that's like zero market time. So what does that tell us? There's buyers out there ready to buy and looking for reasonably priced home. I'm going to still call it a seller's market.
Now, Hal, are these cash buyers or are they getting loans?
It is definitely both. So I think buyers have learned on their own or with some counseling that if you're going to be a buyer and really want to buy a house, you better have talked to some lenders.
Right.
And you better be pre-approved and you better be looking good.
Yeah, nothing worse than falling in love with a house and not being qualified to buy it or having the paperwork, and by the time you get your offer in, it's off the market.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you're a buyer, make sure you're consulting with a real estate professional that's going to get you pre-qualified. If you don't have a lender, they can help you with that. If not, go directly to a lender and get that pre-qualification. Otherwise, your offer is not even going to be looked at.
I mean, I listed one recently. A competing listing was $850. They had a lot of offers on it and went up. And I said, okay, I feel safe. Ours isn't as nice, but the location is better. So this is how we look at pricing. Our location's better. So I said, I'm comfortable at $899. We had, I think, 4 offers on that property. So it went from $899, we were able to get them $1,051,000.
Wow.
This is recent. So, and then I saw another beautiful house, and client made full price offer. One offer came in a little bit less. That buyer got it. So again, it's still a very competitive market. So if you're a buyer, you have to be prepared, and if you're a seller, you better be prepared to, have activity if you price it fairly.
Right.
Yeah, that's the trick, right? If you overprice it, it's just going to sit there.
I had another agent use this expression. He goes, "This market is not kind to those that miss the price in the beginning."
Yeah,
I don't know how the pre-approval process works because of the volatility in the market and in the interest rates. I mean, how often do you need to get pre-approved? Like you go in, you get pre-approved, but then rates shoot up. You got to go in and do it again.
It is fluid, but not so much that usually it's going to knock somebody out of the market. So let's say, I just got pre-approved at 6.75%, and I can borrow, $700,000, let's say. Well, if that was at the tippy top of what they could do, if the rates go up, well, guess what? They're no longer qualified for that, or they either need to put more money down, or say, boy, if I can get the seller to pay 1% of their price to me, now I can get that rate in and I'm good to go. Okay. So it's an ongoing conversation. Right?
That's
So
we
really
did
good
see
question.
quite a bit of that at the end of last year and the
Yes.
very beginning of this year.
Yeah.
The sellers making concessions where they were actually buying down rates so that the pre-qualified buyer could get the rate that they were approved at.
Most sellers don't have to do that. I mean, last year we talked about a lot, that change in the market we talked about when we talked with our lenders is it was such a big deal that we had to do that for the sellers to be able to make them competitive and compel someone to want to make an offer.
Yeah, not so much. We're not seeing that.
No, I mean, have you seen that?
No, not a brokerage level.
I mean,
No.
first month or two of the year, but now last 3 or 4 months, no, it's more like, put on your bootstraps. It's going to be it's a ride. What do we talk about? Another thing. What can we learn? One, we know it's a low inventory market. We also know it's very efficient. And here's what I mean by that. I have a lemonade stand, and I don't sell anything for 2 days. I guess nobody wanted lemonade, nobody came by, whatever. But if I sell out in 5 minutes, I go, oh, wow, I probably should add more lemonade, or the right corner, more lemonade. So we know in 6 to 7 days, if you're not getting offers, that you probably missed the mark, which is scary for a seller and maybe a little bit exciting that that. It's how you look at it. We had a property that was in a tough location, had like asbestos siding, so it was a little tricky, and we comped it with another house, and we thought we were right. And after a week in a quote-unquote lower-end property, we had like 6 showings, and the feedback was too much work for this price, right?
Yeah,
so
no
we
offers.
made the adjustment, and in this case, I'll use generalizations, went from $799 to $750, and the next thing you know, we had a pretty quick cash offer, not too far off that. So the market is efficient and moves really quickly, right? And if you're one of those sellers and you're not getting that activity, it could be a few things, but a lot of times it can be the pricing. So what do I do as a buyer? Be prepared, okay? Get with your lender. Don't be shy about writing an offer. If you have a good agent counseling you, you can only do the best you can do, but be prepared to be competitive.
Yeah, one of the things about meeting with a lender, because there's different stages of getting approved. You can get a pre-approval, which is probably the simplest route. Like, you fill out this document. This is
Right.
what I make, blah, blah, blah. Do they see tax returns on that? I don't know.
Not usually.
But then you can actually go through the process of being fully approved as a borrower. so that the only thing that needs to happen is the house needs to qualify.
Yes.
So there's multiple layers, and I would suggest if you've been in the market, if you've made offers, if you haven't got offers accepted, go through the underwriting process. Get yourself teed up to be able to say, okay, listen, we're a fully underwritten borrower when we make our offer, and that'll have a lot more weight.
Now, we're not lenders, but would you say that's kind of almost being as good as cash?
Yeah, almost. A lot of buyers will remove or waive their appraisal contingency because they're already approved.
Yeah, or financing. Financing contingency.
Financing contingency, yes, because they're already underwritten. And the only thing that needs to happen is that the property needs to appraise.
And even then, there are waivers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I had
if
one
they have
the other
enough
day.
money coming down, they don't.
Depending on what you're doing, right? So you can really bolster your case and make yourself more competitive. So I guess for the buyers, what would I coach you? Be prepared.
Be prepared, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And sellers, here's the thing: like if you're a successful surgeon, dentist, auto mechanic, whatever you're doing, that's your profession.
Right.
Lean into a real estate professional. Any aggregator isn't your best friend when it comes to pricing in your specific market.
Yeah.
Lean into a real estate professional that has up-to-date data, looking at not only closed properties, but properties that are on the market, properties that have gone into escrow. They can talk to other real estate professionals that are engaged in those activities and give you a really narrow version or a window of what your property's value is going to be and increase your rate of success so that you're not missing the market.
And I would say early detection and preparation as well for a seller. Yeah. Meaning, like you give the doctor example. Mm-hmm. Well, do you want to wait till you're sick to see the doctor, or you want to go in early and see what should I do? I think what I would tell people is don't be shy. You're not going to be locked into anybody about meeting someone early. If you meet with them, they're going to go, well, you probably should paint your eaves, and you probably should, get the garden covered up, fill up the gopher holes. You do these certain things, put some bark down. Those are not difficult things, but if you're busy, it's not your thing, you have other things going on. It's like, well, I've got somebody who can come over and give you a price and get it done in 6 days, and you'll be ready to go. We spend a lot of time helping people prepare, which saves them time and energy, puts them in a little better position. If you do it yourself, it takes a long time, and if you hire somebody, it can take a while, but call on that person earlier just to get a sense.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think most people that you call on are going to be happy to help. And there's been some national surveys done on individuals that are online looking for properties, and they would prefer. I mean, this is crazy. 2 years ago, they wanted to talk to somebody or communicate with somebody,
right?
And now, only 2% would prefer to communicate with a bot because they want to have somebody on the other side. That number is up to 14%. 14% of people online looking would rather interface with artificial intelligence because they're just looking for information and they don't want to bother their realtor.
Are they worried about bothering them, or are they worried about, I don't want to be connected to someone? It's like dating, I don't want to be committed.
Maybe it's a little both.
I mean, I'm old school. I ask for directions. I'll stop, roll down the window. Sure. I go to a restaurant. What's good? Can you change it? If I have a question, I'd rather talk to a person because I can answer it instantaneously rather than writing a question down and get an automated response.
Travel agents are a thing of the past, right?
Gone.
You have to book all your travel online.
Yeah.
We have a vacation coming up where there's a lot of different components to it. A hotel room in this city and a car rental here, and then you got to drop off the car rental, you got to get on a boat, and then you got to get off the boat, and then you got to get the car rental again. Then you got to go to another city. Then you got to go to a theme park. Then you got to go. So many times in booking that process, I thought, man, whatever happened to travel?
Yeah,
agents?
where's the travel agent? Yeah.
I was just like, gosh, how nice would it have been to be
Yeah.
like, hey, this is what we want to do. We would have paid the extra money for it, but they don't exist anymore. So you have to go through the process. At least that's a trip. That's small potatoes compared to an investment like buying a house. And when you're buying a house, you shouldn't go to an aggregator and be like, oh, okay, well, this says it's worth this much. Let's go ahead and feel our way through this process. There's too much involved to feel your way through this process.
There's so much available online to look at, to shop, and I'm not a patient person like that.
Yeah.
So I got my own 89-year-old father. He's living in a place and considering maybe moving into something else. And so he wants to paint the driveway and he's very handy, very active. And he's got somebody coming over to fix the steps on the entry to the property. And I go, well, who'd you get? Well, I found somebody. So he got a card in the mail or something. He called it. I go, Dad, this is my dad. It's Dad. I deal with people like this all the day that I know that will come right over and give us a very fair price. What are you doing? Who's your son? So I can't expect if my father won't do it, I got an uphill battle.
We've said this many times. And what's the difference between using an aggregator like the Z Word and then Hal? Are they not accurate at all? Are they way off basis?
It's an aggregator. All they're doing is like scraping the internet for data, and then they're collecting it and then regurgitating it and giving it back to you. There is so many ways that can go wrong. In fact, that company had at one point in time, they were buying houses, and they closed that division down because their values were so far off. And they miss stuff. Like we get calls all the time like, hey, I want to go see this property in Atascadero. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house on 5 acres for $569,000. Like, well, it sold 5 years ago, and that was the price it sold for 5 years ago.
Right.
But it's showing on this website right now for sale and available. Well, what do you think those websites do? They grab your data and then they sell that to somebody else so they can collect a fee from them, and that's what's happening.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas if you're working with a professional that's ingrained in the community, that's got their pulse on what's happening, you're going to get a much higher quality result and a better experience and a true experience.
I use the medical comparison a lot, but it's like, oh, I've got this thing going on. I'm going to check WebMD. Well, there's probably a general answer for it, but there's a reason you go to a doctor and go, oh, you didn't think to ask about this thing on your shoulder or whatever.
Yeah, and doctors love WebMD. Oh,
Maybe they do. I don't know.
Carcinoma. That's great.
If there's something I'd
Diagnosed
never
yourself.
heard of, I'll look it up, right? But otherwise, I'm going, hey, Steve, I got this thing going on. Can you help me? Come on in. Take a picture. I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's the same thing. It's good to have somebody that's aware, and there's plenty of good people that people can rely on in our marketplace for that. So anyway, so to recap the market, we're probably going to continue when we have this next month. I think we'll probably have low inventory, high demand. Days on the market are also down. I talked about, and the last thing I want to mention, in many of our towns, an average price. Now we shred it because it doesn't mean a lot. But in Los Osos, San Luis Obispo, or Rio Grande, for example, all those places are closed sales this month, average price higher than a year ago.
Out of the 7 areas in the state of California that they've looked at, Northern California, Southern California, Inland Empire, like all these little places, we were the only area, the Scenic Coast was the only area that actually went up in value. Everybody else was going down.
Let me add the caveat, because then everybody that I talk to wants to sell their house. Well, it should be worth more. I mean, I've seen houses that sold last March that they're trying to sell now, when they were competing with 8 offers, that they're going to have to sell for less than that.
Yeah, and
Okay,
to John,
so it's not a general statement.
Sure.
Let's talk specifics: real estate, location, competitive situations. Somebody might have bought something a year ago and got a really good price, and now it's worth way more than anybody else in the market in terms of price. So they fluctuate, but in general, the trend in a lot of places is strong pricing, strong demand.
values are so all over the board that that's why you really need to call somebody that's a professional in the industry to help you with, because one community might be different than the community right next door. Like 2 streets over, totally different home values, totally different median.
Well, let's think about this. Let's assume all the banks were one bank. It was, all the banks were just one bank. What percentage of the real estate in this county they own? So even at 50%, I don't know what the value is, but look at all the wealth or all the real estate that is, quote unquote, owned by the bank or controlled by the bank, because you're partners with the bank. When I have a loan on my house. They don't go to online to check value. They send a professional out and do a report.
Yeah, what a great analogy. You
Right.
bet.
So if they're willing to do that, you can start online, but
Yeah, boy, that's a great perspective.
So I like putting you on the spot. When's it going to stop? When are we going to have months to where there's more available inventory than closed?
So if interest rates continue to go higher, because we are so rate controlled. I mean, whether it's real estate or other things. So if those rates go higher because the Fed's trying to slow down the economy,
Right.
They want to slow down demand, right? They want to slow down demand for everything, which means jobs could be affected. So if the general economy goes into a recession and somebody's not making as much, they may be less likely to buy a house. People were nervous when rates went up last year. Real estate slowed way down. People were nervous when we had COVID. It slowed way down. Now, did it last very long? No. So John Turner and Warren Buffett would say that's the resilience of the U.S. economy.
Absolutely.
And then within that economy is the San Luis Obispo real estate resilience. Yeah, I'm going to share this story again. I had an older gentleman, very successful. We've become friends, and I just go, boy, he's looking for an investment property. And I go, well, you don't get a very good return. Well, I don't get much in the bank. And I go, do you want appreciation or cash flow? He goes, well, I want both. I go, boy, appreciation, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, Hal, have you been here in San Luis Obispo long? Sure. He goes, you ever been to Carmel? Yeah. You been to like Malibu, yeah, you've been to Santa Barbara. We're cheaper than all those places.
Yeah.
Right? Are we any better? It sure seems like it.
Yeah.
Right? If those people decide to move from there to here, so he still thinks that this is an underpriced market in relation to the features and benefits.
And he's been in those markets, so he knows.
Well, I've been there. I looked at them. I go, that's fine, but it's no better than. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, real estate is a very local thing, and I think we're just lucky to be here. We're floating up now.
Right.
Now we're floating up.
Yeah, we're floating down on interest rates.
Floating down is
I'd
on,
rather
on
float up.
next week's podcast.
Chase him down, push him down.
Yeah.
Float
be
them
sure to
down.
listen
That
to
just
next
sounds-
week's podcast so you know what floating down is all about.
All right, gentlemen, fun as always. Thank you very much for being here, Hal, Jay, and Mr. Kingman. Thank you so much, and we'll see everybody next week. Thank you for listening to the Hal Sweasey podcast. Be sure to subscribe and rate this podcast. It comes out every Monday, so check for it in your feed for the latest information on the San Luis Obispo County market. The SLO County Real Estate with Hal Sweasey podcast is available wherever you get your podcast and on halsweasey.com, where you can find current listings and other real estate tips. halsweasey.com, that's HALSWEASEY.com. I am James Bueno, Director of Marketing for the Hal Sweasey Group. If you're looking for anything real estate, give us a call, 805-781-3750.
Hal Sweasey is a licensed California real estate broker. DRE number 01111-911. The SLO County Real Estate with Hal Sweasey podcast is a production of AGM Podcasts. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.